Welcome back, Rosebuds, to another volume of Ghost Tales to Tell in the Dark. Normally we do stories more on the creepy side, but today we have 7 sassy true ghost stories, and one that is completely fictional. If you're listening today in the United States, happy holiday! We hope this more lighthearted collection of stories will be a perfect addition to your feasting festivities. If you're new here, you know it's a little game we play. As you listen, try to figure out which story is completely fake. So sit back, dim the lights, and settle in with a nice hot cup of cocoa for some sassy ghost stories to tell in the dark. Story number 1, Schoolhouse Ghost. I was a math teacher for a few years. My 3rd year teaching, everything started falling off my walls. I tried command strips, masking tape, double-sided tape, duct tape, and finally Gorilla Tape. Didn't matter. Never failed that I'd be in the middle of teaching and a poster or something from the bulletin board would loudly hit the floor. I eventually quit putting items back up and just had a stack of fallen misfits laying in the floor beside my desk. One morning, after something fell, a student asked if I knew why everything kept falling. I replied no, and she said, "It's the ghosts." The children ghosts were playing and knocking things off the wall. She explained to the class that her grandparents were shaman and she could see ghosts and spirits. The kids freaked out, and I just went along with it every time something else fell. Blame it on the ghosts having fun. The next semester, it had stopped. Everything was sticking to the walls and back to normal. I saw that same student walking into the class next to mine and went over to the teacher. I asked if she had any issues with things falling off walls, and her response was, "It's the strangest thing. I've never had this problem before, but nothing will stay up." I never had any issues before or after having that girl in my class. Only that semester. Guess the ghosts were following her around. Story number 2, Tuxedo Man. I went to uni in South Africa, and I lived in a flat apartment that was next to a hotel. The Radisson, actually. My light would every now and again switch itself on and off, which I figured was an electrical failure. But the creepiest would be if I left the room for a few minutes and came back to find the light on or off. Like, even the switch would be pushed down. I used to sleep with my curtains open. One day, I woke up to go to the bathroom. It was very late, like 3 a.m. My room was across the restaurant. I saw a man walking across the restaurant in a tux, and I was like, odd. There weren't usually any people up there at night. I come back from the bathroom and I see him walk past again in the same direction. At this point, I feel a little uneasy. I scooch a little closer to the window. Please note I'm in the dark while the restaurant lights are on, so I can see this person, but they shouldn't be able to see me. The person again passes by, headed in the same direction, and now I'm really creeped out because I don't see them when they come back. It's as if there are many people who look exactly the same who are passing by this same spot. Anyway, the 3rd time around, he stops, turns and cups his hand around his eyes while looking through the window as if he is looking right at me. I ducked, crawled out of my room, and spent the night in the living room. LOL. I won't lie and say I'm skeptic, but I'm definitely like an ignorer. Like, I never spoke about this while I lived in the place because that would make it real, but after I left, I was like, that place might have very well been haunted. Story number 3, Titanic actor? While visiting a Titanic museum, my friend and I were excited to see pieces of White Star Line first-class china, silverware, and other artifacts that had been brought up from the depths of the Atlantic Ocean. There was velvet roping around an authentic Titanic deck chair with a model in period costume, reclining. We joked with the woman while shuffling past with our group that this job must be delightful. Being able to watch people all day while seated, lounging, struck us as rather ideal. She just smiled. At the end of our tour, most people were filtering out of the museum. We stopped and jokingly asked our guide how to land such a great job, repeating what we'd said to the woman on the deck chair. He began to laugh. He said, "Oh, you saw Miriam. She's not always here, but we welcome her anytime, honey." We asked how much that would pay, and he laughed again. "Miriam is our name for our ghost," he said, and then added, "You don't think we'd let anyone sit in our Titanic deck chair, do you?" We could hardly eat lunch as we realized we'd likely just encountered a Titanic ghost. We now take a short intermission. This is a Black Rose PSA. Did you know that if you don't hit that like button today, a curse of the prankster poltergeist will haunt you forevermore? It's absolutely true, Rosebuds. So make sure to protect yourself and show us some love by tapping that thumbs up button. All right, back to our regularly scheduled broadcast. Story number 4, Hygiene, the friendly bathroom ghost. Senior year in college, I was working late at night on an editing project for the campus TV station, which was located in the basement of the oldest building on campus. It was generally agreed upon that there was a ghost or presence in the building because things would move or disappear for weeks, only to reappear in a locked cabinet, only accessible by moving a couch, etc. You get the idea. Anyway, back to the story. It was around 2 a.m. when I got up to use the bathroom. Did my business, washed my hands, and went to wipe them on my pants as I walked towards the door, when all of a sudden I hear the unmistakable ka-chunk, ka-chunk, ka-chunk sound of the manual paper towel dispenser behind me. I look back and there's freshly released paper towels hanging there waiting for me. Not to be rude, I grabbed the paper towels, dried my hands, said "thank you" to the bathroom ghost, and then got the hell out of there. Story number 5, Ghostly Gus. I was a bartender at a pub where we had this regular who'd come in every Tuesday and Thursday when his wife was at bingo. He'd sit and slowly sip his pint while talking amiably to the other guests. He was truly a gem, and the whole staff loved him. His name was Gus, and he loved to sort of flirt with the ladies around middle-aged. He wasn't creepy about it, just women who were starting to feel older and unsexy. He'd actually make them smile, and for the most part, I could tell they would feel a little better about themselves afterwards. For an older gentleman of 70-something, he wasn't that bad looking either. Sadly, during the pandemic, we shut down, and when we opened back up, I learned that Gus had passed away during that time. The staff that did return were all pretty sad about it. For a week after we discovered this news, we decided to have sort of an employee memorial for him. We thought we'd leave out a pint in the place he used to sit on those Tuesdays and Thursdays. We'd all walk by it, touch the rim, and say something like, "Rest in peace, Gus, you old codger," or something like that. Well, here's where things got interesting. The first day, my coworker stops what she's doing and is staring with a dumbfounded look on her face at the memorial pint. It's sliding in short, jerking movements, first to the left, then to the right. Not noticeable unless you were paying attention. I stared at it with her, and we both startled as the pint suddenly tipped over. We both laughed uneasily, saying, "Poor Gus, must be trying to pick up his pint and drink it." On Thursday, we set out another pint and noticed the glass is again sporadically making little movements. We don't say anything to the guests, of course, just whispering to each other on staff. Then all of a sudden, the glass just shattered. The patron closest to it looked like he nearly had a heart attack. Needless to say, we didn't put out another pint as an experiment after that. However, we did notice in the future that if a middle-aged woman was sitting in the chair that Gus used to frequent, he'd kind of mess with them. Like moving their bowl of nuts out of reach when they weren't looking, or playfully flipping a lock of their hair and tickling their neck. We'd stand back and watch this amused and give each other a knowing look. After a year, I graduated uni and began my career. I don't know what became of the place, but I kind of hope Gus is still haunting it. Story number 6, Bank Ghost. I know that there is a spirit at this bank I work at. I interact with it often, and I'm not the only employee that has experienced this. When we clock into the bank building, our ID badge sets the alarm and entry system into maintenance mode. This is a security safety feature. It prohibits entry from any other badge and disables manually typed codes and hard locks the doors. In other words, I know that I'm the only person inside since nobody else can get in. Every once in a while, when I do the top floor, where my closet is, I empty the trash bins into my larger rolling barrel can. I place the bins back into the room and close the door. I never leave a bin outside of the door, and the bins do not start outside of the rooms. When I finish the bottom floor and come upstairs, the bins will be sitting outside of the rooms in the hallway, and the doors will be open. Story number 7, The Dog Whisperer. There's a ghost that loves my dog. I'm an artist and rent a small studio that is on the second floor of an old antique store. Store is quite large. Bottom is all antiques. Top has a few small studios and more antiques. When the antique store is closed, the bottom floor has active alarms. There is a separate staircase and entrance to the studio section. Artists have 24-hour access. Because she is the best girl, my GSD mix comes to the studio with me. Absolutely loves when the store is open and customers can walk around the upstairs area. My studio is in the middle of the top floor and has 2 doors, one on each end. But the doors are removed, so I just have dog gates. When people are around, she goes from one door to the next for pets and treats. If I'm there after hours, usually early in the morning, she just chills and sleeps on her dog bed or works on a bone. The past few weeks, there's been an odd occasional occurrence. We'll be there around 5:30 a.m., contentedly working away, and Serene, my dog, is snoozing on her bed. She'll wake up from a deep sleep, run to the door, full-on tail wag, butt wiggle, and level her head like when she's being petted. Ears back and flat, top of head flat, eyes looking up adoringly with a doggo grin. After a moment, she'll break and run to the other door and repeat the process, just like she does when an actual customer is petting her. The first time, I actually thought someone else was around, so I checked. No one else there. Nothing on the security cameras either. So, is a ghost loving on her? Or is she sleepwalking? Do dogs even do that? Story number 8, Ghostly Pranks. I worked in a Toys R Us in the 90s that everyone said was haunted. We could hardly keep an overnight crew because of it. We were doing a bit of a remodel, and I was put in charge of an overnight crew of about 12 people. In 2 weeks, all but 2 had quit because the paranormal activity was so intense. One night, it's just me and one of the 2 that hadn't quit. The other one had called in sick or had the day off or something like that. So it was just me and her locked in overnight. All night was super uneventful. We go to take our lunch break, and we're sitting there at the table in the break room eating. Suddenly, a penny falls between us. Then a second one. Then a third. Now, at the time, I had a coworker who was something of a prankster, so I looked up, expecting to see that he or someone else had wedged pennies into the ceiling tiles. Nope. No pennies on the ceiling at all. Then another one falls, and a few more. it freaking starts raining pennies. Of course, we were scared shitless. We ran out of there and listened at the door. After a little while, it got quiet, so we dared to go back in. There were pennies everywhere. All over the table, the floor, the couch. She quit on the spot. I still have a jar with all those pennies. It was almost $3 worth of pennies. Too bad the prankster ghost didn't make it rain silver dollars. Well, have you guessed which story was the fake? I'm betting you thought it was that last one. I certainly would think so, but that one was not. That was an alleged true story. Before I do reveal the fake, drop us a comment. Would you ever visit a haunted pub, or have you ever been to one? We'd love to hear your story. On to the reveal. Story number 5, Ghostly Gus, was the fake. However, I will say that I was inspired by a real video I watched on the paranormal YouTube channel Slapped Ham. Now, if you've ever seen his content, he does a bunch of paranormal videos from CCTV, and this clip showed similar happenings from that story on a haunted pub's CCTV camera, and I thought it would make a fun story. Alas, I don't remember which video it was, and he posts a lot and it was a while back, so I can't post the link, but you can definitely filter through his channel and find that video yourself, and I highly recommend it because I absolutely love his channel. All the other details of that story are completely made up. All right, that's a wrap. Thanks for listening. Take care and stay creepy.